Welcome everybody to another review episode on the Geek Buddies! Hey! You know, some of you have been following us and watching these reviews on Star Trek Picard on CBS All Access. We've been enjoying watching the show. We've been taking them 2 episodes at a time, so this is the review. This is the review for episodes 5 and 6. And down the road we'll do 7 and 8, and then 9 and 10, and then maybe that 9 and 10 will be a overall review of the series as well. But this one, we're reviewing episodes 5 and 6, which are named The Stardust City Rag and The Impossible Box. I am one of your hosts, writer, producer, and host, John Rocha.
I'm Ensign Vogel.
Oh, nice.
And I'm Engineer McClung.
Oh, that's good. I like it. I didn't give myself a ranking. I don't want
You're the
to.
captain.
Hey, you're in the captain's chair.
Not in Picard.
You're the captain now.
Who's the captain? I'm more of a Kirk captain, so even though he blocked me on Twitter. Anyway, all right, so, yeah.
What?
That's you guys want to know that story?
William Shatner blocked you on Twitter?
Yeah, Stephen Mance.
What'd you do?
Yeah, I didn't do this. Our social media guy for the Cinephiles accidentally, he did not intend to do this in a mean way, but Steve Mance and I had a conversation about Shatner's divorce that just happened. And we were thinking, and we just made a comment about how, like, because we're talking about how much we enjoy William Shatner as Captain Kirk and stuff, but we mentioned how, like, what's the point of getting divorced at 88? Might as well just finish out the run here and be done with it. And our social media guy tagged at William Shatner, and wouldn't you know it, he just happened to look at it. It may just be because Scott Mance is well known in the Star Trek community as a big Star Trek fan. He looked at it, got mad, and he blocked me and Steve. He did not block Scott.
How does it feel? How does it feel to be blocked by your hero?
It is.
We'll get to Picard. We'll get to Picard in a minute, but I really want to delve into this.
You don't even know how upsetting it was. And look, I'm not mad at Luke. Luke did his thing. He was trying to do. But I said to him, don't ever do that again. Don't tag anybody without approving it with us, because these people are sensitive. And, you know, Steve didn't know either. Steve's not that knowledgeable about social media. I am. Had I been a bit more on top of it, more paid, so it's my fault too. I should have been a little more vigilant about checking on this. If I had, I would have never let it go out, because you don't tag, you hashtag him. Ooh. You don't tag him. He just by chance he looked at it, and I was like, I lost it. I was so upset. And once again, it's not his fault. He didn't know, but I was super mad about it, because that's my hero. That's my guy. Shatner's my guy.
All right. I have a scenario I want to throw past you.
Please.
You go to lunch someplace in Beverly Hills here where you live.
Uh-huh.
You run into William Shatner.
Please don't. I'm getting uncomfortable, and you haven't even finished the question. I really like.
He looks at you and says, "You and I have something to talk about outside."
Oh. I'll gladly go with it.
Okay.
If he wants to beat me up for 5 minutes and unblock me, I'll take it.
I literally thought you were gonna say more like, this is the more likely scenario, that John goes to get lunch somewhere in Beverly Hills, and William Shatner is just sitting there, minding his own business, having a meal. Like, you would go up to him, wouldn't you?
I would absolutely.
Oh God, I'm so uncomfortable right now. Oh God.
Mr. Shatner, I don't mean to bother you, but something happened on Twitter a few weeks ago, and I'm completely apologetic about it.
I told you that you shouldn't have gotten divorced, and you should have just rode that out.
We totally terrially made jokes
I'm
about
gonna
the
vomit.
situation.
I'm getting
and we
sick.
shouldn't have done it. And could you please unblock me? I love you so much, please unblock me. Oh, I'm a big fan of Captain Kirk.
He takes a swing at you, you just take it.
Absolutely.
Okay.
If Shatner, oh please,
okay.
I'll even play the music as he's beating me up. As he's beating me into the ground. I have no problem with that.
I did not.
Gladly.
I did not know that story.
I will buy T-shirts that says I got my ass kicked by William Shatner. I would absolutely do it. Captain Kirk.
Boldly.
He put my boldly where no man has gone.
John Rocha was boldly beat like no man was beat before.
And gladly so. Just unblock me. It's like Larry. It's like Curb Your Enthusiasm. Oh my God, that's a great episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm. To have him unblock you. You don't understand. Unblock me. I'm a big fan.
Scotty beams him up. Kirk beats him down.
That's right.
Okay.
Unblock me. Are you watching that series, by the way?
Yeah.
I have one more episode left, and I've caught up. This season has been next level. Anyway, we're not here to talk about Kirk Enthusiasm. We're here to talk about Star Trek Picard, which William Shatner and Kirk has nothing to do with. And the last 2 episodes have been. I think the season turned the corner for 5 and 6, obviously, because there's only 10 episodes. But a lot happened in these 2 episodes, and we're getting closer to these confrontations that have been teased in the first 4 episodes over these 2.
Yeah, it's been great. I mean, I think that some people's complaints or criticisms of the early episodes was that it moved slow. I actually really liked the pacing of it. I thought it was really interesting, and I thought it was really nice watching them sort of build these pieces, and it was very confusing what's going on, and you have a lot of, you've got Daj and Soji being built as Data's daughters, you've got this Borg cube, you've got these Romulans, like there was a lot happening, and I feel like these last 2 episodes have really started to pick up the pace, drive things forward, a lot more action, like a lot more excitement. And with episode 5, the big piece was Jerry Ryan reprising the role as 7 of 9, which I think is probably maybe one of my favorite things that's happened thus far in the series. But again, as I always do, because I think this is the most fun part, Shannon, as someone who is not a Next Generation guy or Voyager guy who's coming into this completely fresh, what were your thoughts?
So I tend to watch TV in the morning. I will watch TV with breakfast. I'm learning not to watch Picard with breakfast because the opening of episode 5, where that the reclaimed Borg guy is getting his eye ripped out.
Icheb. They never say his name, but he is actually a character from Star Trek Voyager, which is what made it sort of excruciatingly heartbreaking. I'll get to that in a minute. I'll explain that, but yes, you are right. It was a gruesome scene.
Watching that happen, I was like, oh my god, I can't. I have to put my breakfast wrap down right now. Really, really cool episode. I loved Space Vegas.
Space Vegas.
Oh my god, Space Vegas was great.
So much better than Canto Bight. Can we just put that out there?
Oh my god.
So much. I love the pop-up things that came up. That's just exactly what would happen, like it does when you go to a website on your computer. All of a sudden these pop-ups, and you're like, what? Oh, yeah.
The robot pummeling Alison Pill.
Right. And Alison Pill claiming that she's not a violent person. Yeah, well, that was interesting how that was paid off a little bit later.
So much happened. I mean, again, I love Santiago Cabrera's character, Rios. I love him.
So good.
Giant plume.
They kind of were having... Picard has been very heavy, very serious, and they sort of, in this episode, even though a lot of serious stuff was happening, they sort of let loose and had a lot of more fun. The giant outfits that they were wearing to be extravagant, Picard's ridiculous French accent, just all of it was very sort of lighthearted and funny.
One of the hidden gifts of this season has been Patrick Stewart or Jean-Luc Picard's desire or being okay with the butt of the joke, being the butt of the joke. I never saw that in Next Generation. I mean, if you watch those old episodes of Next Generation, the first few seasons, he's kind of a jerk. He's a little bit of a hard-ass jerk. Even if you watch the one with the original Maddox, of course they recast the character Bruce Maddox, but if you watch the old one Maddox, he's a jerk to Data, because Data's like, well, why don't we take eyes out of these people then, human beings? And he's like, you're dismissed.
I don't think he's quite a jerk, but okay.
I was going to ask, is that...
It's a bit brusque.
It's a different actor playing Maddox.
Yeah, it is.
Yes, Maddox is a different...
And Hugh, too, isn't it?
No, Hugh's the same
actor. Same actor?
Hugh's the same actor.
Yeah, Maddox is a different guy.
Yeah, so to your point, the Borg that was being sort of reclaimed at the beginning, or was being dismantled and kind of very gorily taken apart, is a character from Voyager named Icheb, because in Voyager, there was an episode where they encountered a Borg ship that was acting erratically, and it's because all the Borg on the ship had died of a disease except for the children. And there was a group of children that ended up being taken onto Voyager, and much like 7 of 9, they were sort of reverse engineered, sort of took taken away from the collective and brought back to their original forms as much as you could with a Borg character. And so he was a character that was on the show. He and 7 of 9 had a very close relationship. He was almost like a son to her in a lot of ways. Okay. And so particularly because I had just been rewatching all the episodes, I turned on the episode and just right away recognized him because it's the same actor. And I was like, holy shit, it's Icheb. And so 7 of 9 coming in and being as upset as she was, if you are a fan of Voyager, makes a ton of sense.
Yeah, I thought Jerry Ryan was great. I'm not overly familiar with her work because I didn't watch Voyager, but I'm guilty of being sort of dismissive, like, Star Trek show. I don't need to know more about you. She did such a great job, such a kind of heartbreaking performance, and the thing that I sort of equated with Free Cloud was, this is like real world Ready Player One.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The way people are, like the guy who had the projected wings.
Yeah.
I was like, that is so freaking cool. Like, I loved the different world aspect, and comparing it to Canto Bight, I think is really smart, John. How it was just so much more effective.
It was, and it was smaller. Even though the world, they've got all these different species, it was smaller in its approach. And then you had all these weird things happening because you have Rios doing this character that essentially looks like the '70s pimp character, and then you have Picard, of course, with that. But the
French upper class.
Yeah, when he's going at Jerry Ryan, she's disgusting. She's a piece of this, and then you have what's his face, the samurai Elnor, who's like. What is this all about?
Well, the humor that they've really got out of Elnor, this very serious character who just is completely out of his element and doesn't know what's going on, has also been really fun. So it was really interesting though, because all the stuff that you guys are talking about, it was a really fun episode. It had a lot of silliness, and ultimately it's a heist kind of thing. I mean, it's them going in and trying to deceive the bad guys to get Maddox back, and 7 of 9 seems very willing to be a part of that, which she says is for one reason and turns out to be for a very different reason, for revenge for what happened to Icheb. And while all of this is going on,
Alison Pill.
Not Alison Pill. Raffi.
Yeah.
Raffi takes off, and in this really sad sort of arc for her, the reason she wanted to go to Free Club was to see her son, who she's estranged from because of the beliefs that she had about what happened with the attack on Mars.
But also because of her substance abuse, because she says I'm clean.
Yeah, the two tied together.
But they're connected, of course.
Yeah. That was heartbreaking and really sad. And I just think it's, as all the fun of this episode was going on, you have 7 of 9, who's just led this horrible life. Not a horrible life, but she's a free ranger out in space trying to protect people. But, with what has happened to the Borg, with what happened to Icheb and stuff, she felt very betrayed. You've got Raffi dealing with her estranged son. And you've got Alison Pill, Dr. Javardi, dealing with what we come to find out at the end.
Now, did we know that she knew Maddox prior to...
Yes. Okay. When Picard interviewed her in the second episode.
We didn't know they were romantic.
We did not know. Right? So we did. What you knew that...
It kind of was hinted at, but it wasn't.
Well, you didn't really know. You knew that they worked together.
Yes.
And you knew that she worked with him on all the synth stuff before synth stuff was shut down.
Yes.
And then in this episode, you saw footage of them baking together, where you finally understood that they were romantic, and she was really upset, which you were led to believe was, I'm just really sad that he's gone.
Right.
But what we come to find out at the end of the episode is it was because she, for whatever Commodore whatever Commodore O told her, whatever she believes about, I believe she says, I wish they hadn't shown me, I wish I didn't know. But that was so big that she felt that she had to kill him.
Yeah.
Or was she maybe tasked to do that?
I don't think
one or the other.
I think because she kept saying, I wish they hadn't shown me what they had. I wish they hadn't shown me as he's dying. I think she felt that she's doing the right thing, no matter how much it's killing her inside to do it. Because remember the Romulans have been hinting. Remember the Romulans that attacked Picard? They said, "You don't understand this. She's the ender of all things, the ender of worlds." So there is a possible future here where where that other twin that's on the Borg, Soji, could actually be like the ender of all things, and or not,
or the way that they
manipulate
what their belief is incorrect. And then I think the other thing about this episode that I thought was really interesting was the conversation that 7 of 9 and Picard have at the end, where they reveal, which is important for the next episode, which we'll talk about in 2 seconds, they reveal that he really is still dealing with his time as a Borg. Because, for I think a lot of the way, I think First Contact, the movie, was sort of built to be like, this is Picard dealing with the Borg, with the line must be drawn here, and him overcoming that stuff. But what I think is really interesting is that what they say what 7 of 9 says to him is like, do you feel like you're fully human? And he's like, no. Like, that both of them are dealing with this, like, once you've been part of the collective, once you've been part of the Borg, that never really leaves you. And that bond that the two of them had, even though they've never actually met each other.
Right. But I would counter, and that does get referenced in the show, in that episode.
Yeah.
Because they say, it seems like they knew each other. He's like, no, I don't think there's no records of them ever.
They know of each other.
They know of each other, right. So I would say this too, though. I think it is a good conversation, but I like the other conversation where they're talking about mercy. I am more in the 7 of 9 camp. I'm always more in the 7 of 9 camp. I think you can be satisfied by revenge. Other people don't feel that way because other people are constructed differently. But I like the idea that there is someone who countered Picard and went down and handled her business. I guess the girl's name is Bajasi, the actress. Bajazil. Sorry. Nakar Zadegan, by the way, gorgeous. What a beautiful woman.
By the way.
And brutal.
And looks exactly like Marina Sirtis did back in the Next Generation days.
I initially thought it was her.
To the point where I got momentarily confused.
That's Troy.
Right? I was like, that's not Troy, because that's what Troy looked like back in the. But she's. it was shocking to me that they cast her in this role because she looks so much like Deanna Troi. Like that's how much it was, and it kind of threw me.
Yeah, but what she does too, you find out the reason why 7 of 9 does what she does is because she was behind that whole thing of going after the guy. Was the character Ichin or whatever you say? Ichin. That she was behind that, and tricked 7 of 9 by getting the information.
But I do like what you said. I do think it's interesting. Picard in the original series and in this series has a very strong sense of his own moral code.
Yes, he does.
And he's very happy to let everybody know what his opinions are about that.
Right.
And I do think it was interesting to have a character like 7 of 9 who I liked, to your point, the way that they didn't cast her in a light of she was wrong and Picard was right.
Right.
It was clearly two different sides of a coin.
Two different philosophies. And she said, I'm glad he's doing what he's doing so that people have mercy and hope in the world. But I'm the other side of it, and I've got a job to do myself, and I love that.
It was very satisfying to watch her go down back to Free Cloud and just take those guys out.
And I don't believe we're done with 7 of 9, and I'm excited for her to come back because she was great. And usually all the other episodes up to this point were structured with we spent time with Picard and the crew, and then we spent time on the Borg cube.
Yeah.
And this episode was completely the crew. There was a lot of stuff that happened. It never went back to Soji or the Borg cube or the Romulans. And then episode 6
jump into that.
Jumps right back in because by the end of episode 5 they find out that Soji, who Picard is searching for, is on the Borg cube.
Right.
And they know they have to go there, and so the whole next episode was them getting to the Borg cube. And boy, if you are a fan of Picard and Locutus of Borg and Star Trek First Contact and all of that, this was probably the episode that you've been waiting to watch.
Yeah. Real quick before we jump into 6, are you okay with them killing off Maddox so quickly when like the first 5 episodes of them trying to find it?
I love it because I love being surprised.
Okay.
I love first of all, it seems they've got a lot going on in the show.
Yeah.
So it seems like Maddox needed to get there. You needed to get to Maddox to know that Soji was on the Borg cube.
Right.
And he got that information out, and then they were like, we don't really get it anymore, let's kill this guy.
Yeah.
I think there's so many characters going on. There's so many things happening that I didn't necessarily need Bruce Maddox along for the ride as well. So it didn't bug me at all.
All right, so we jump into this next episode, and you're right. This was everything you were waiting to have happen. If you had seen the episodes, if you knew about everything that went on with Borg. I mean, Picard and Hugh seeing each other was like awesome, and Picard's just the way he said Hugh was so sweet, and you find out all this other stuff. Yeah, go ahead, man.
No, I was gonna say, like, I think I'd said in one of the previous reviews that he was only in one episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation, and one of our fans pointed out that I was wrong, so I went back and looked, and I don't think I ever saw these other episodes, so I went back and watched them. It's The Descent Part 1 and Part 2. It's like the season 5 finale and season 6 premiere, or right around those parts, where Data's evil brother Lore is actually taking a bunch of the Borg that got infected once Hugh went back to the collective, and making them do. Star Trek was crazy, y'all. There was some crazy shit.
I love evil.
Yeah, Lore was
evil.
Did he have a good?
He did not have a good evil Data. But that's where you sort of caught up with Hugh and saw what was going on with him, and that sort of left. That the end of that episode sort of leaves you with Hugh kind of separated from the collective with these other Borg that are separated and what's going to happen, which really is an extension of where they pick up in Picard with Hugh leading this Borg reclamation project. So 100% right. Like Picard seeing Hugh, Picard, being very anti-Borg. Basically, I think he says in this episode that they are not they don't get better, they metastasize or whatever he says. And then seeing the Borg kind of through Hugh's eyes, through realizing that they aren't just this big scary monster, and and Picard himself is good. That all of them were victims, just like he was, which was amazing and super cool to see.
Well, and I thought a really cool moment was when Raffi reached out to the one Starfleet officer trying to get them in to the cube, and you see, and I imagine she will come back to her son. That's my guess. But you see her sphere is shrinking. She's having to rely more on Picard more and more because she can't reach out to people.
And this is also why she told Picard that she didn't want to do this. But Picard insisted. And then Picard brought the wine. When you think about the substance abuse, Picard brought the wine. So listen, he's a bit of a dick. He's a little bit of a dick. And he wants what he wants at all costs.
There was a really weird moment that kind of rubbed me slightly wrong.
Be a good person. Make that so. There we go.
There's a really weird moment that rubbed me wrong. And then I was reading online that other people sort of had a similar reaction. And I'm interested to see if this is just a tone-deaf moment that will never get resolved, or if this is building to something, which is Raffi comes out to talk to this Starfleet officer. She's literally got a bottle in one hand and her vape in the other. She's clearly wasted. she is not, and she doesn't give a fuck. Who knows?
Right.
And she does this thing. She has this conversation where this person says, "As one of your oldest friends, don't ever call me again." But she gets what she needs to get.
For Picard.
And then Picard sort of like slow claps, like he claps for her, like good job, well done. And I'm like, dude, you can see she's drunk. This was not a good moment. It was, and it really struck me as an odd. To your point, Picard was being kind of a dick, self-absoabed way.
The only way he isn't is if he doesn't know about her substance abuse.
But she's literally holding it in her hands.
Yeah, I mean, seriously. And Rios walks her back. And she's like taking a big swig as she's walking out, but at least Picard got what he wanted.
Yeah.
So that happens.
This whole series has been about Picard getting what he wanted and not getting what he wanted and him pouting about it. So this is fascinating how they're deconstructing Picard throughout the series through a certain prism.
Boy, for someone who loves Kirk so much, who has made some questionable moral decisions, you really like to beat up on Jean-Luc Picard.
Has Patrick Stewart ever blocked you?
No. Social media.
Then we have the whole Allison Pill. We have the Javardi Rios.
Yeah,
the Javardi Rios like hookup moment.
This pissed me off on so many levels.
I was curious about this. Like, do you feel like was she just looking for comfort, or is there an angle there to this?
Well, you look at the humanity of it, right? Women do talk about at times using sex to kind of negotiate stuff or fill a hole. I've certainly spoken with many women who say they've had random sexual encounters because they feel lonely or they feel empty, and they have the sex to kind of connect to something. They're working something out.
I mean, so to be fair, guys do that too.
Yeah, sure, but we're talking about a woman who did it here.
I'm just
right?
saying.
Rios wasn't doing it.
I think it's a people do it.
I don't think this is a time to make a stand here. I'm just saying because this is the character is doing it. She happens to be female, so I'm saying yes, this is possible because it's a human moment. Now, if Rios had been doing it, I'd say men do this all the time too. So, but it wasn't Rios. Rios was just here playing soccer because apparently that hasn't died in whatever century this is, And the ball is still the same apparently. So whatever, but because that's all Latinos do, play soccer. But anyway, I thought this was a weird decision and a weird choice because we did get a hint of their flirting in episode 5 rather, but to have it go down like this, it's dangerous because her record of killing the men she has sex with is not strong here.
I'm wondering, and I do to your point, I am wondering if there's sort of an ulterior motive here. One of the reasons is because something that wasn't picked up on, and it's such a big moment that I can't imagine it's not going to be, but. The EMH, the emergency medical hologram, kind of saw what she was doing to Maddox, and she shut him off, and he didn't show up in this episode.
Right.
Like, we haven't gotten the emergency medical hologram going, hey, what were you doing?
What are the limits for that? With Picardo, was he able to come up whenever he wanted, or was he only called upon?
Robert Picardo, they gave him the ability to call himself up,
okay.
like as he progressed, and then he eventually got other abilities that most holograms didn't have because he was literally their medical officer.
Did he randomly have sex with people to fill a hole in his life?
No, but he did have a crush on 7 of 9 that was really cute.
But
I
can see it.
But so I'm curious to see that piece come in, and so her hitting on him did seem slightly out of character and kind of came out of nowhere. Right. So I am wondering if she is sort of planning for how she's going to play all this, or if she really was just super lonely and fucked up. I think both are probably true.
Yeah.
I think she is pretty fucked up about what she had to do.
The other aspect of this we should talk about is this Soji being led by Narek into her dreams and then pushed past the line, and we see a fuzzy father figure, and then
so cool.
And then everything that happens there, and her getting essentially turned activated. Yeah.
I thought that the whole idea of him kind of Narek sort of focusing in on why would a synth have dreams?
Yeah.
That everything has a reason, and realizing that was sort of the buffer that anytime Soji got close to realizing something was weird, the dreams sort of helped curb her from making. I thought that was a really interesting idea, and then him sort of just poking on that to the point where she made that realization. That whole scene where she's carbon dating every photo in her journal and realizing that everything is 37 months old.
Yeah.
That none of it is real. And then
she carbon dates herself.
Yes.
Yeah. And then you see, as we talked about, that her mom is clearly like a program, which we had kind of talked about on the previous episode. But that you really see like that moment where the mom sort of glitches.
Yeah.
Which was super creepy to me for whatever reason. So she's sort of been activated, doesn't know what's going on, totally freaking out, very much just like her sister was in episode 1. And fortunately, freaks out and runs right into Picard and Hugh.
Right, and who rescue her. And here's the deal with this situation: the thumbnail for episode 7, as we're recording this, it's out now, has Deanna Troi. I think Deanna Troi is essential at this point to navigate Soji's journey in her mind, her emotional journey. Troi was always good at that, so it makes sense that they show up.
She's a beta Z, man.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. That's good, and she's damn beautiful. So what else did you take out of this episode?
I really loved. Props to like one of I think the coolest shots I've seen in in a series that has a lot of cool shots was when Picard was sort of realizing that he was going to encounter the Borg cube and have to do this. Was when he was looking through all the footage of like the Romulan Borg sort of the treaty that allowed the Romulans to keep this Borg ship and everything. And then the image of him as Locutus of Borg came up in the hologram, and then he sat down behind it and sort of superimposed, which that image all by itself sort of told you everything you needed to know about where he was at emotionally with all of this. And this is something he really has not let go. And I think part of this is, I think, really cool storytelling on the part of the showrunners. Part of this is just the age that Picard is that when First Contact came out and we were dealing with, let's deal with his feelings with the Borg, it was very much like Ahab and his whale, I've got to deal with this, I've got to wipe them out, like there's a thing. And when he got on that Borg ship, he was just a scared old man. Yeah. Which I think is a kind of much more affecting. Like that you just got that this is a thing that happened that you don't come back from.
And I think that's what the scary part of this whole season is Picard could be completely fucking wrong about this.
I don't think that's the case.
But I'm not saying this, but it's possible. And I like that.
But wrong in what sense?
Well, because he could come to the end of this thing and Soji wasn't any of this. And Soji isn't any of this.
Well, she clearly is.
Well, she's half in this, and she's a droid or a synth or whatever you call it. But she may not be the ender of all things. This could be a whole mission.
Picard doesn't think that she's the ender of all things.
Well, that's what I'm saying. He could be wrong about that. She could be the ender of all things. I'm just saying they've shown enough holes in Picard's logic, and certainly the flaws in his approach to the things, like what happened with the Romulans and leaving those Romulans on the planet, and his own impertinence and his own stubbornness, that I like that they're doing it because it deconstructs the characters, it demythologizes the character, and I like that. I
like that too, and I do agree with you. I agree with you insofar as they clearly are making Picard not infallible. Yes. Like, he's definitely made mistakes in his life.
They would never do this with Kirk.
He kind of turned his back on the Romulans. Right. Once the Federation pulled out in a way that he didn't necessarily need to. Right. He kind of turned his back on Raffi. So they've definitely made him fallible in the way that he has sort of shut down and went back to his winery. Yeah. Or his what do you call it?
Chateau.
Chateau. Thank you. But where I don't agree is I don't think that they're going down a road of making him as wrong as you are, as you're suggesting.
Wait, but I'm not trying to say that's
only not because it's not about Picard at all, but it's just like in the bigger picture of what we're dealing with synths being outlawed and Soji being basically the most advanced synth that there is. Right. And the Borg, and what Hugh is doing with the Borg Reclamation Project to bring Borg back. Like, Picard's bigger sort of moral stance in the face of the Federation, that they did pull away from helping the Romulans, that they did, that this outlawing of synths are life forms. Like, synths should have their own level of rights. I don't think they're going down a road that all that is going to be wrong, because that is kind of the antithesis of what Star Trek is about.
Agreed. But I like that we're seeing some flaws in Picard, because those are the best parts of, those are the best episodes of Picard, and those are the best parts of all those Next Generation movies.
100%.
Is when they question Picard. Like, just with Kirk. Kirk left Khan behind. Kirk never came back to check on them. And so that's the fault in Star Trek II Wrath of Khan.
Kirk also was racist against Klingons.
Well, I don't know if he was a racist. The species, there's a difference.
He was specious against Klingons.
Well, he blamed them for the death of their son.
No, I know. But I mean, I think that Star Trek,
clearly.
I think Star Trek 6 actually deals really well with that, using that, to your point.
Right.
It uses Kirk's feelings about the Klingons, which are very tied to his emotions about everything, and shows how he maybe is like not seeing the potential of where they can go.
I think those are the best Star Trek episodes when when the captain is questioned, when the captain kind of falters or shows flaws, because demythologizing them makes you connect to them as human beings and makes them even more interesting.
And this is a really interesting point, because there's been a lot of articles about this, and based on what you're saying, I think I know what your answer is going to be. There's a lot of people, not a lot, there is a faction of people that feel like Star Trek Discovery, Star Trek Picard, all of them are kind of going against the wishes of what Gene Roddenberry wanted.
Yes, I've seen that too.
Because Gene Roddenberry was very, very specific in that in the 24th century, humanity has evolved beyond our pettiness and that we have our noble ideals. We put aside our issues with each other and whatever, to the point that, and this is well documented in the Star Trek books that are written about the making of the series, that through Next Generation and everything, I think Deep Space, leading up to Gene Roddenberry's death, writing episodes of Star Trek was very, very challenging because you were not able to have human conflict.
Right.
You were not allowed to say, you and I just don't agree, and I did something shitty. You could say that a alien cloud overtook my body and made me do things, but we couldn't have conflict. And as anybody who writes for a living knows, like, conflict is the thing that you need to tell a good story. And so Star Trek still managed to tell some amazing stories and do some of the coolest sci-fi, but it wasn't until after Gene Roddenberry's death, during, I think, the production of Deep Space Nine, that they started to be able to get more human conflict. And with Picard particularly, painting the Federation as not ideal in the way that they've handled situations, in showing a lot of the fallibility of Picard. I think Jonathan Frakes, who directed episode 5, even said that you would never have been able to have a scene like the scene between Seven of Nine and Picard, where the scene that you like so much, where they're arguing about mercy or not mercy, because Gene Roddenberry would say that's not, we humans are past that. I think it's kind of nice to see that humans are not past that and we're still dealing with that shit, because I do think, to your point, demythologizing. Demythologizing.
I've been putting that word together for 90 seconds.
Say it again?
Demythologizing.
There, doing that with these characters, I think, does make them infinitely more interesting.
Yeah, agreed. And you know, it's funny you say that conflict. I wonder how they got away with Star Trek 6, because you had humans turning on each other and Vulcans turning on each other and Romulans.
I heard, I was just reading this, that Gene Roddenberry, up until the end, tried to get the movie recut.
Oh, what?
Yeah, like, he did not like it.
Oh my god.
He did not like it. That he adamantly wanted them to cut certain scenes and kind of re-edit some stuff because of that. But I think, to your point, that's what I love about Star Trek 6. So,
because it's real.
And Christopher Plummer is a Klingon.
Hey, cry havoc! And then loose the dogs of war! What is this? Spock says that I give a wooden nickel from to shut the hell up. So I agree. So anything else we need to touch on?
I'm really hoping that episode 7 starts with Eleanor taking with Tal Shiar.
Oh yeah, because he's been left behind, right?
Well, no, he showed up on the cube.
Oh, yeah, right.
When Eleanor showed up on the cube to help Picard, and then Picard and Soji left, and Hugh and Eleanor go out, and all the Tal Shiar, all the Romulan security comes running around the corner, and it just goes to black, and you hear him say, please choose to live.
Yes. I hope we get to see that. I'm guessing we won't, but I really hope we get to see that.
Yeah. Guys, I like Eleanor so much.
Yeah, well, you would. He's basically Legolas with black hair.
Yeah.
And you've always had a thing for Legolas.
He's like hotter than Legolas, though. But I don't only like him because he's hot.
Don't tell Katy Perry that.
And I don't only like him because it's really cool to see basically an elf from Lord of the Rings and Star Trek, which is what he is, which is amazing. But as I was saying, I think he's such a nice counterbalance to everyone else. You have this world where Rios and Raffi are super lived in, have been through the shit. Picard is dealing with his inner demons and the Borg and everything else and the mistakes that he's made.
Yeah, right.
Dr. Javardi is dealing with some heavy shit that we're going to really delve into. Yeah. Soji's over here being activated. And then you have just like poor sweet little Eleanor who just wants to like do the right thing and is completely out of his element, and I think he's just a great character in that respect.
He's a Romulan, right?
He's a Romulan.
So this is going to be interesting on that ship. If he does get captured by those Romulans on that ship, what will be that experience for him?
Yeah,
it'd be interesting if we get to explore that in episode 7. So yeah, there's a lot here to go through in the next 4 episodes, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So I'm looking forward to it.
Same.
And I've been enjoying Star Trek. I've seen the complaints, but I don't register those complaints in my head because I've been enjoying it.
Not only am I having a blast watching Picard, but as I said, like, it inspired me to go back and rewatch a ton of Voyager, and then watching these episodes of The Descent Part 1 and 2 that Hugh was in.
Right.
And it's just like, because it's all on CBS All Access and it's on Netflix, I kind of like watch Picard and it kind of gets me jazzed, and there'll always be some Easter egg or some character or some moment. And I know that, Riker and Troy are in this next episode. Yeah. I am sure that I'm going to spend this week popping back in and watching some classic Riker and Troy episodes.
There you go.
And watch Riker hop over that chair the way that he did in all those scenes.
Watch the one where Worf takes Deanna from him. Anyway, all right, well, there we go. That's this episode of Picard Review, Star Trek Picard Review on the Geek Buddies, episodes 5 and 6. What can we tell them, Shannon?
Yeah, if you'd like to follow us on social media, on Twitter, it's at geek_buddies, on Instagram, at _geek_buddies. If you'd like to follow me on social media, on Twitter, it's at Shannon_McClung, on Instagram, at Shannon the Geek Buddy. If you'd like to follow Mr. Vogel, it's at MKToon. If you'd like to follow Mr. Rocha, it's at The Rocha Says.
There you go. Mikey?
God, I got nothing good. I've used all my engage, my assimilation. Listen, guys, don't be a dick like the Romulans.
Oh my God.
Don't be like them. They got no heart. They got no soul. Follow us. Give us comments.
Yes.
If you're watching, do it here. If you're listening, do it there. We just want to get you involved. We want to get more people involved. We want to get more people listening.
We want to get you activated.
Oh, nice.
Or engaged.
Okay, all right.
Use that one.
Either one.
We want to make you part of our collective.
How about you just share the episode? That would be great if we just did that. That'd be a lot of fun. You follow all of us and let us know how much you enjoy the episode. Because when you share the episode, you're telling your followers, you're giving a stamp of approval of this episode and of us as the Geek Buddies and our analysis. So we would really appreciate that. All right, that's this episode that's this review episode of
The Geek Buddies!